Today we're going to talk about Atonement. Atonement is a British metafiction novel published in 2001. There are 3 different time periods in this book. It starts off in 1935 and then skips about 5 years to World War II and lastly, present-day England. Only after 6 years of the book being published, it was turned into an Oscar-winning movie starring Keira Knightley and James McAvoy, which is also on Netflix, but it is rated R, so be wary. Ian McEwan was born June 21, 1948. He's an English novelist and screenwriter. His writing career started with just Gothic short stories, but he soon branched out and wrote many books. He won the Man Booker Prize with his novel Amsterdam, and he was also awarded the Jerusalem Prize in 2011. In 2008, The Times featured him on their list of the 50 greatest British writers since 1945. And the Daily Telegraph ranked him number 19 on their list of 100 most powerful people in British culture. The story starts out with Bryony Tallis, a 13-year-old girl with an interest for writing, and her older sister Cecilia, who has a budding romance with Robbie Turner, the housekeeper's son and Cecilia's childhood friend. The girls' cousins, Lola and her twin brothers, visit the family because their parents are going through a terrible divorce. Later that day, Bryony witnesses a fight between Cecilia and Robbie from afar, and misunderstands to think that Robbie was being aggressive towards Cecilia. Robbie realizes after their fight he is in love with Cecilia, and writes 2 drafts of a love letter to her, giving a copy to Bryony to deliver. However, he accidentally gives her a version he was going to throw away, which contains lewd sexual language. Bryony reads the letter, and is very disturbed to say the least. Later she walks in on a romantic moment between Robbie and Cecilia in the library. She again misinterprets the act as rape and believes Robbie is a maniac. Later, at a family party hosted for the girl's brother Leon coming home, it is discovered that the twins have run away. The party breaks apart to search for them. While searching, Bryony discovers her cousin Lola being raped by a man she cannot clearly see. Lola is unable to identify the attacker, so Bryony decides to accuse Robbie and identifies him to the police as the rapist, claiming she has seen Robbie's face in the dark. Robbie is taken away to prison with only Cecilia and his own mother believing him innocent. And that's only part 1. To keep the rest short, part 2 is about Robbie trading his jail sentence to go fight in World War II, where he sees horrific, terrible things. Cecilia cuts ties with her family because of Robbie and becomes a nurse to help the war effort. And part 3 is about Bryony joining to become a nurse as well, and later goes to ask Cecilia and Robbie for forgiveness, which they refuse. In a small postscript, it is revealed that Bryony is actually the author of this story, and that the 2 lovers, Cecilia and Robbie, actually died during the war. To her, writing this book with a happy ending for them was her atonement for what she did in 1935. A major theme in this novel is misunderstanding and jumping to conclusions. Bryony jumped to conclusions, and in result broke apart a beautiful relationship between her sister and Robbie. Her misunderstanding of certain adult situations was also a big culprit. If she would have just thought about the repercussions of her actions without knowing how her sister really felt, Robbie and Cecilia would still be together. Our first protagonist is Cecilia Tallis. She is the eldest daughter of the Tallis family and is in love with Robbie Turner. She went to Cambridge with Robbie, and even though they grew apart while attending, when they came home, they still had romantic feelings for each other. She also gives up on her family when they turn in Robbie, and shows her true love for him means more to her than her distrusting family. Robbie Turner is our second protagonist. He is the housekeeper's son and grew up with the Tallis family. Cecilia's dad even paid for him to go to college. In the second part of the book, he is sent to war and sees many terrible things, including a field full of dead young teenage girls with bullet holes in their heads. Even though he has been separated from Cecilia for the longest time, he still thinks of her during the war, and she is said to be the only thing that keeps him going. Our last protagonist, Bryony, can also be classified as an antagonist. She narrates many chapters in part 1, and is seen as a protagonist in the reader's eyes. It isn't until the romance between Robbie and Cecilia gets twisted in her mind that her antagonistic ways come to play. She is the reason Robbie is sent to jail, and her misunderstanding sets in place so many situations that would not have happened otherwise. For the point of view of this novel, it is between third-person omniscient and first-person. When the novel is narrated by Cecilia and Robbie, it is actually Bryony because of what she reveals at the end. However, in the sections where it's narrated by Bryony, it's obviously first-person. which is a very interesting take on it when you look back after reading. It wasn't only wickedness and scheming that made people unhappy. It was confusion and misunderstanding. Above all, it was the failure to grasp the simple truth that other people are as real as you. This quote, as narrated by Bryony, reflects the theme of the novel. It is, however, quite funny coming from Bryony because she is the one whose misunderstanding changed a man's life forever. This quote foreshadows the rest of the book, the fact that Bryony was to become unhappy in confusion over Cecilia and Robbie's relationship. So unhappy that she'd start to make him into a monster in her mind. One can wonder if she added this thought on purpose when writing the story many years later. The article I reviewed for this novel was called The Absence of Atonement in Atonement, written by Charles Pastor. Pastor made some great observations of the book. He talked about how this way of atonement Bryony is talking about is not really a way of atonement, just an excuse for her guilt to be set free. He also talks a lot about religion and how it's almost non-existent in the characters' lives. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and hopefully you either pick up this book or watch it on Netflix.